Welcome to the MSP Corner podcast. Before we kick off our show, we would like to share what our main objective is at the MSP Corner. Our main goal is to help CEOs build profitable and self-sustainable IT service firms. We are not just providing tools for IT firms, we will be sitting in meetings with you to ensure your IT firm stays on track. The first area we are focused on, strategic sales. IT firms are stuck selling technology or IT support. We will provide you with the blueprint so you position your firm as an added value to your prospects. We will have framework on how to sell value so you influence the prospect into selecting your firm. The second area we see many IT firms struggle in is marketing. 90+% of businesses rely on antiquated marketing methods. The most popular choice, word of mouth. We have proven methods on how to attract the ideal prospect. Our framework will include how to become the online authority and be the business influencer for an industry. The third component to our package, scaling. IT firms walk away from opportunities because they lack the bandwidth or skill set to scale. We have lined up reputable businesses so our members can hire on-demand resources that will allow them to scale their business. The fourth area we will offer help in, selecting the right tools. In order to deliver value, you need the right tech stack. Our platform will offer information on products that are the ideal choice for MSPs. The fifth area we will offer help in is with documentation. Templates are a critical component when building an MSP. We will have contracts, proposals, SOWs, collateral, and much more in the template section. You will have every document you need to start up your managed IT service business. Thank you for tuning in. Let's go to our next podcast. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our podcast. My name is Fernando Leon. I am your host, and I'm joined by my co-host, Gregory Moravietz. And today we have another guest. We have Brad Smith from Stellar Insight. And we're going to get this show going. But first, I want to go quickly over the agenda. But let's start that off. But we'll do a quick introduction on Brad Smith, Stellar Insight. We're going to discuss how he helps clients, what in most areas. The single thing business owners do that will make a difference. We'll touch on that. What's the difference between a business growth coach make for a CEO? We're going to discuss what makes him different than other coaches. And also, we'll discuss what is the best single change an executive can make to improve results. And if we have time, we'll touch on other tips that Brad Brad will share. So let's kick this off, and let me give you guys a quick overview on who Brad Smith is. Well, obviously, he's the CEO of Stellar Insight. He has been an executive coach for over 2 decades, but he's been working primarily with ambitious CEOs who want to at least add a consistent extra zero in revenue. He coaches CEOs for organizational and personal growth. He also runs a masterclass for deep intuition development for CEOs and R&D teams. He has studied mysticism, intuition, and human development for more than 55 years. He has taught this class to private students for more than 8 years. Now, about Stellar Insight, well, they're about helping CEOs achieve excellence and revenue growth, also improving customer experience and personal evolution. So let's get right into this. And well, Brad, tell us, what do you help clients with most? Where is the biggest pain point? What are their biggest challenges and how do you help them?
Thank you. Good to be here. I would say the first sentence I want everybody to carry in their mind is you cannot grow a company beyond the limitations of the leader, period. You can have all sorts of operational things behind it. You can have visionary things that are profound, but the limitations of that vision, the limitations of those actions, and the operational things that happen unconsciously as a result of a leader's limitation, that's not the first thing I approach. I listen to their stories, I listen to their situations. Then the first thing I take them into is what's the biggest pain you have? Almost always, it's either I don't have enough time or I don't know how to get and retain the right people, the best people. So one,
Interesting.
yeah. So either people or retention or customers. Those are the attraction processes, if you would.
Yeah,
Ah,
I gotta jump in here right away because I that is so true, and I want to hear we're in an environment like Silicon Valley.
Hmm.
It's like the most competitive. People don't realize it, but it's for technical people. They say there's so many here. It's so competitive here because you have Google and Microsoft and Facebook and Okta. Everything you could imagine is here. Everyone's vying for those technical resources, and they're not doing it in a manner that's any way and shape and to fair to a small or medium-sized business, right? I don't have the power to give people free lunches and cafeterias, and how can I grow an environment that's so brutally competitive? It's like Thunderdome, you know, two men enter, one man leaves.
yep. Yep. Go ahead,
So
Brad. How would
one
you
of the
answer that?
thing, one of the things that people forget is there's human beings involved in this, and we're either mature and adults or we're evolving toward that. But one of the things you do is two things happen when you give people free lunches. You make them not responsible, and they wind up being children. You don't want that. You want adults. So if you inspire people and have them come because of a deeper connection with who they are to what you want to accomplish, then that vision attracts people. And also, if you treat people really well, people have their friends come at a place they want to work at themselves, right? So you have a new
Yeah, and what
CEO.
what is what is
Go
good
ahead.
treatment? But what is good treatment though, if it's not
Respect,
providing the benefits?
respect.
Respect? All right.
Yeah. I mean, you can give them all the monetary things in the world, and that's perfect, except that when you have something that's beyond that, give it a choice between someone who I enjoy talking to in an interview and someone I don't like talking to. And, like I feel like I was incarcerated or, put through the fire. I'd rather work for someone who I enjoyed conversation with, right? And also enjoyed the vision that they had. So people need to understand. I mean, I'm going to flip this a little bit. When you're hiring someone into a company, almost everybody goes straight to the skill level. There are two things in front of that, and there's a thing after that that are really critical. First thing you have to look at when you're designing a new position is what are the results that need to be accomplished? Then from that, you go to what are the tasks? And the third thing is what are the skills that person needs in order to accomplish those things and be effective? That's all trainable stuff. The fourth thing is trainable, but way, way deeper. What is the person's character? In other words, someone who's going to be a good bookkeeper is not going to make a good receptionist. Think about that. Someone who's a good bookkeeper is good at detail. They may not be really good at talking to humans. Someone that's a good receptionist needs to be that way. So,
All right.
character is a significant difference.
But but I'll say this, there's like no school on how to be a good manager, right? There's no school. Maybe there is Wharton or something, business school. You got to spend a lot of time. But if you're starting your small business out as like, making wiring, a wiring guy, you usually don't have the skills to figure out if somebody's got good character. I mean, I think I don't actually have that skill set figuring out if a person has good character. So where do you go to get resources to learn how to figure out if somebody is going to be how to interview properly? Do you help with that?
Oh, I can, yeah, but it's a matter of how do you listen to someone? All right, so there's a couple books I'm going to throw people at. They do part of it, but not all of it. One is, give me a second because I looked this up for somebody yesterday. Um, Top Grading by Bradford Smart. And he got most of the interviewing and review part right. He didn't get the character part right, even though his son wrote, Gregory Smart wrote the book called Who, which is why kind of the same topic. He still didn't get the who part. When you're talking to someone, you ask them what's important to them, not what do they do, but what's important to them. Why do they want to show up and work for your company? And they'll give you all the outside stuff. And then you ask them again, why do you want to work for this company? What is it about this company that appeals to you? And so you go deep enough until you get to the core of who they are. I like the way this company treats customers. I like what you give your customers, and I'm excited about my opportunity to, if you would, R&D, do the research behind necessary new evolutions of your product line. What is it
All
they
right.
care about? That's important, and no one asks that.
Nobody asked that. I can
So
confirm
so
that.
so Brad, do you have like some type of questionnaire that will help you determine, these type of answers? Or do you customize these type of interview questions or questionnaires to determine, hey, this guy will be a great fit for the organization and they have excellent character? I mean, what's that look like?
Well, first off, look at your own character. And this is the one big tip I'm going to give at the end. Who are you? Who are you as a business owner, but who are you as a person? What's important to you? What do you what do you value? Have you gotten to the place where you're mature enough that you run your life from the inside out rather than from the outside in? Do other people's opinions matter to you? I'll tell you a short story. When I was growing my company, so I started in 96, woke up one morning in 99 and went, oh, crud, I have to have new customers. I have to have new clients. How am I going to get those? Oh, Brad, you have to go down to the library, you have to check out book on sales, and you have to cold call people. Okay, you're going to do that. Do you like that? No, I hate that with a passion. But who are you going to be? So I had one afternoon after I'd read, and this is the second book tip I'll give people, Secrets of Question-Based Selling by Thomas Freese, Freese. Get that book, read it. I got it out of the library, I read it, I bought it, read it 4 more times, and the fourth time through, I used it as a workbook to build out my script to call people. Now, maybe a month into this, I had one afternoon where I was calling through the list. I had 5 people in a row chop me to shreds. And the last guy just completely annihilated me. So I stopped myself and I said, okay, Brad, why are you having such a hard time with this? So I put up flip chart paper on the wall in my office and I went through and I coached myself on it. What I got down to was I didn't have enough character strength, but I was giving every person that I had called the responsibility for setting my value with myself. And I thought, well, I don't even give that to my parents anymore. And they're the ones that kind of put me in that range, right? So if you have someone else's opinion matter to you enough to make you feel bad about yourself, you're living from the outside in. In order to change that, recognize you're the only one that ever has any choice in your life about who you are and how you feel about yourself. even your closest romance, right? They don't
Mm-hmm.
get to tell you who you are. You get to choose that. No one else can choose inside your skin who you are. No one,
Are you also
ever.
just really describing confidence? Aren't isn't that confidence?
Confidence is self awareness and
Okay.
knowing for a fact whether you can or can't. And then behind that, we infer confidence. So I would say it this way. And I'm attempting to write a book on this, but when we're born, like pop out, right? The first decision we make is I'm not capable because at 20 to 22 inches, we're not, right? The second decision we make is I'm not responsible. That's key. I'm not responsible because at 22 inches long, you can't be, right? Because you're not capable. I'm not capable. I'm not responsible. The third one, almost all of us make is I'm not valuable because I can't get what I want when I want it. And that happens sometime in the first year or so. So later on in life, when you get angry, what's the purpose of anger? To give ourselves permission to be powerful, because underneath everything in that first decision, we don't think we're capable of equaling the environment we're in. So if you get angry on a consistent basis, you don't think you're capable, and you also are giving away responsibility because they're to blame. So if you blame, criticize, get angry. So you stand back from all of that and you say, okay, in those three things, the second one, I can make a decision about right now. I can choose to be responsible. The more responsible we are, the more mature we are. The more mature we are, the more capable we can learn to be. So if I choose to be responsible, I can learn capability in almost everything. The third thing we decide, I'm not valuable. We get to infer as we gain more capability in the world. And so when you're interviewing someone, you want to understand what they think they're capable of.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
My only caveat is that when you're in an interview, you're not being probably completely honest.
Oh,
You
Lord.
know, you're trying to put your best foot forward. You're trying to say things you're trying to bend the truth a little bit towards in your direction, right? Can you manage people? Oh yeah, I can manage people. I mean, how many of you managed? One, two, 100? A dozen people I've managed, but maybe you've only managed a couple, half a dozen. But you're like, you kind of push yourself up, I think, in interviews. You don't lie, but you definitely don't you embellish a little, I'm sure, and you wanna say all the right things because you wanna have a win, right? People who I interview, they're looking for the win. They're looking for, "Am I hired?" Not, "I wanna work here," so much as they're looking to hear a positive affirmation that they've won the interview round and now they can decide whether they want to work for you. I see that a lot where people will come back and go, I've thought about it and I don't, it's not going to be a good fit. And I'm like, well, it's not what you said during the interview. You said it was going to be a great fit, but they've just gone in and they want to hit the win, right? Do you think that's true?
Oh, that's completely true. So an interview is a two-way interview. Do I want to work for this person? So the interviewer doesn't have all the power. The other individual has as much authority in the situation. Do I want to work for you? Do you want to work for me? So it's a selling job both ways. And so everybody presents their best selves because that's what selling is about, right? It's
Right.
persuasion, right?
Right.
But underneath the persuasion process, you have to get to truth. I had a young gentleman at one point in one of my positions that I was interviewing for an assistant to me. And when I got down to it, I started asking him about his career, what he'd done before, how he was in school. And in the middle of that process, I saw him roll over anger. And I'm going, oh, this is not going to be good if this person is hired. And I didn't have final say so. So I let people know when I got dug down into it, this guy had anger issues
Oh
and he was
wow.
going to report to me. And so even though I didn't get to say, no, don't hire this guy, he got hired. 3 months later, I had to have him go away because even though he was doing a pretty good job, his emotional content in the room we were working in was not acceptable. So I had to
Oh.
fire him.
Yeah, and there's that too. The process, a lot of people are like, "Oh, if Gregory's not working out, just fire him." And it's like for small or medium-sized business, the amount of time you put into like maybe training that person, maybe
Mhm.
bringing them up to the level that you need them to be effective is tremendous for a small business owner or a medium-sized business owner or an IT person. It's tremendous. It's more than people realize. Not so much for like maybe a front desk receptionist, but for a technical person like a managed services provider where we
Mm.
deal with tech stacks with 50, 60 different technologies sometimes. If you have anger issues with that person, you're almost willing to overlook them because you're like, look, I've put so much time and I've staked my reputation almost on this person. And it's so hard to fire them. It's so hard.
Recognize that you get to go both ways in a decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
So interviewing is important, right? Who is
Right.
the person that they show? So one of the things I like to ask is, what are your hobbies? Right? And in that, you get to see something that's in them. And in the middle of that, then you can ask them what's important to them. And then you get to see a little deeper level. So as you're asking deeper and deeper into who they are, they reveal consciously and unconsciously what's important to them. You have to get them off topic a little bit in order to have them stop selling, start to give you the truth of who they are. So,
Yeah, stop selling. Selling is intense during an interview. They're selling themselves. You're right. And when you're selling something, you're like, let me turn it to the right direction so you can see it from a perfect view. You don't want to look at the back of it because it's all ripped out. You want to see
right.
it from the front, what it could, what it is on from the front, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, definitely sell. You're right. Selling during an interview, you gotta put them off balance or something to get to the nitty gritty.
So then you ask questions like, sorry, one of the things you want in this world right now is that parents, I'm far enough into my life here that my dad was raised on a farm and had a really good work ethic and taught all of his children good work ethics. So one of the things you ask is you want to get to their work ethic. Who trained you? I want all your listeners to write this down. Who trained you? Oh, let me back up. How old were you when you had your first job, first real job, right? So that's one indication. Then behind that, who taught you how to work? How old were you? I was 7. No, I was 9 when my dad gave me a job and he said, I wanted a BB gun, right? That part of my life in the Midwest. He said, there's a quarter acre of brush, and it was a real old quarter acre. He said, I want you to go clear it off, and then I'll pay you this much at the end. And it was enough to buy what I wanted. And I worked for 2 days in probably 90-degree weather with a pick and an axe, pulling out the brush, clearing it up, getting it ready. That taught me how to work.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
So you want
That's
to
great.
know about their work ethic, who taught them, how early it was, right? And the earlier it is, and the more discipline that was involved in that work, the stronger they're going to be in their work ethic.
Hmm.
There,
Hmm.
that's the key to that question. And nobody else has questions like that. And it took me 6 months working with a client to kind of stumble into that question with him, and it worked.
Wow. Wow.
Now, do you think that there's a generational
Oh God, yeah,
work ethic?
yes, God,
Uh,
yes.
uh, but can't you argue that we're just evolving? Aren't we just evolving as a work environment? I mean, I know you're saying that there's a generational, but don't other generations kind of, like quiet quitting, for instance, it's not exclusive to millennials.
Oh,
Quiet quitting is done by, older people, people of other generations, they isn't it do you think it's more, I guess you do because you already affirmed it, that it's a generational situation versus um a work evolution? I kind of see it as a work evolution sometimes.
Or
versus, yeah,
what?
these people accept this particular type of behavior more than these other people, so maybe it's generational. But isn't it more? Do you agree that it could be evolutional, work evolution?
Let
Evolution in what
oh
way, or just changes in the culture? I look at it as a cultural change rather than an evolution. Evolution is towards something, right? Evolution is towards something, and I have a whole view about that with who we are as beings. But we're going through an evolutionary change, and one of the tough things we have to learn is if you're going to be an adult, you're responsible. The government isn't responsible. Mom and dad can't be responsible anymore. Your names are on the bills, right? You have to show up, you have to do the work. So it's not, it might be a generational thing. I don't think that it's deeply generational, but it is enough to point to. Okay.
so I got a little input there. Because I have family members that are my age, and they all work for large organizations, or they are yeah, they all work for large organizations. So they've seen a common thread with millennials. They're all, the majority of them are quiet quitters, and they refuse to do work outside of their work description. They are notorious for that. And how my comeback to that is this, because I'm not a quiet quitter. I'll work 12, 14-hour days and not even, lose a not I don't look at the clock and go, "Oh, it's time to leave." I don't look at the clock for that. I look at the clock because my wife's going to be home. And sometimes I have to have dinner ready. But my point is, we're on a team, and as team members, we all have an objective or a goal. And I would hope that my team members would help me out. They would um, uh, assist me if I have an issue. But if I hear somebody coming to me and saying, well, that's just not, I can't do that because I'm not in, it's not in my job description, I would have an issue with that. I would not be very happy with that team member. How do you overcome those type of challenges when you have a large contingency of workers, employees, who have a very, and this is across the board. This is not even this is not, you find some anomalies within the millennials. This is, they seem to all feel this way. Do you see that being, do you come across that quite a bit yourself, Brad, when you're training organizations or helping them with these type of issues?
It's so there's a couple of failures that happen before you get to the quiet quitter. One is the interviewer, right? You didn't catch it on the inside. What are their work ethics? What's important to them in order to, someone gives me a time and date to show up, right? I would
Yeah.
do this. This is even when I was dating, right? It's like through my whole life, after my first marriage, I would show up. If I gave a woman, didn't matter how far I had to travel, if it was in town, I would be at her door either 30 seconds ahead of time or 60 seconds after. Those were my boundaries on that, right? When I had to travel a distance, like a couple hundred miles to get to her door, I would give myself 2 minutes ahead and 3 or 4 minutes afterwards. But those were my boundaries, right? So
Yeah.
you have to ask in the process what's important to you and what structures are important for you and how you run your life. Okay. Then you walk out to their car and you look and see how messy it is.
I've heard of landlords doing that to renters or
Yep.
potential renters, which I thought was such a remarkable hack, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you have them come in, you interview these guys, or the potential renter, one at a time. And one of the hacks they had was, what does their car look like? Because that's what rental property is going to look like on the inside. So
Yeah.
what a great piece of advice, Brad. That is true. I love
Well,
that.
I want to counter I want to counter your question, Fernando, a little bit, in that I have seen that behavior 100% of the time not millennial, and it is in environments where you have unions, where we've
Wow.
had union jobs. People have constantly said to me, I can't reboot my computer. I'm not a computer technician. I can't touch this. I'm not been trained on it. And I've seen this at other union jobs where you have teleprompters who have to shadow other teleprompters and won't do any work. It is not necessarily a millennial problem. It's like Brad said, it's like cultural a little bit, because the union culture is, if you're not been trained on how to do it, don't do it. And
Mm.
tell your boss, I can't do that. I haven't been trained to do that. And I've actually firsthand seen that when we had customers who are the ports of America, where they would refuse to reboot their computer. Just a simple thing where they would turn it off and turn it on again. They wouldn't do it because they were like, I can't do that. I haven't been trained as a computer technician. And I'm like, wow. And then you see millennials who are quiet quitting, quiet vacationing, and telling you that they won't do their job, or won't do any extra part of their job. I'm kind of like, well, that almost feels like a union of generation.
Let me throw this at you. If you were raised on a farm, you did everything that you through yourself could, right? But how
Right.
much of our current population is raised on a farm? Almost none.
None.
So that's a parental thing. I apologize to the population that's my age that raised children, right? Or the generation that's raising children now. But it's like, if you don't teach your children work ethic, they won't have it.
How can you expose that though? I mean, is there a way you can expose that?
Um, yes, you can.
You
That
know,
gets into
on
the
the down on the down low, right? Because you can actually,
no,
you can ask them, "What's your work ethic like?" And they're like, "Oh, it's
no.
excellent."
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have the most
no.
of them
So
all.
I want all of your listeners to write these two questions down. It's like, how, who taught you how to work and how old were you? Write that down.
I love
Okay.
All
it.
right.
I love that.
Because I was young and there was no way I was going to get away with any sort of garbage, right? It's like wasn't. So my dad taught us work ethic. It's like, who taught you how to work and how old were you? And listen for that. Okay. Then, how old were you at your very first job and what was it?
Hmm. So I'll share this with you. My mom and all her siblings were raised on a farm, and
Mhm.
I will honestly say they all had amazing work ethic, and they passed that on to us. I my first job was I had a paper route, and one of the things that I was really good at 12 years old was not only obviously delivering the paper, but I'll tell you one thing that I was better than anybody in the entire state of California. I was their best salesperson. I sold so many subscriptions to homeowners or people that would, requested they had the delivery, they had the paper delivered to them. They had a contest who, if you sold so many subscriptions, you got a free trip to Disneyland and Universal Studios. And I sold so many that I beat everybody, but I also sold enough to bring my brother to this trip. So I just I've always been really good at selling. And
All right. That
that's,
brings
yeah, go ahead. But
that that
I love your hack.
all right, here's another hack. And this took me a little while to decipher because I started seeing people with different tendencies. I've got two brothers and two sisters in my family. I'm
Yeah.
the second oldest, right? And there's a book called The Birth Order Book. Write that down, read it. The Birth Order Book, right? There may be a second one out, but it covers the same material. But what it said was if you're a firstborn, right? Normally, let's put it this way, of the presidents of the United States, 60 or 75% of them have been firstborn or only children.
Wow.
Wow.
That's
Right?
interesting.
It
Yeah.
is. The test pilots are almost always babies of the family. They are the risk takers. Birth order wise, Fernando, how in your family, what birth order are you?
I'm the oldest.
There you go. So you're willing to do it. Now, there's a tweak to this that I learned after a while. It's like if you're the youngest of a family, but you've got, let me back up. 90% of the CPAs in this country are firstborn or
Wow.
only children. 90%, or at least it was when the book was first written. So it means that they've got high levels of structure and analysis, but high levels of structure for firstborn children. I
Yeah.
have really high level of structure. My dad was a chemical engineer, trained me to think and be like a chemical engineer. Look at stuff, measure it twice, make sure it fits exactly what you want, and then cut, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So people need to understand what you're really, really looking for underneath everything is, do they have commitment? So you ask that question. What are you committed to in your life? What are you committed to accomplishing in your life? That's a good question. That brings out who they are and their structures. If you make a commitment deep enough, the if goes away. And it's then only a matter of how and when. Period.
Well, I'll throw this hitch in here,
Mhm.
which I did already in the beginning, and that's scarcity. What do you do when you have scarcity? You can interview all day and weed out all of the bad eggs, and guess what? There's 12 of them, you know, 12 to a box, and you can't find the person that's going to answer those questions right, no matter how many interviews, how much money you're offering, how many, I mean, at a certain point, I'm sure at some level of money you're offering, you're going to get the person you need, but at the price point you need to stay at, you're going to get what you're going to get, right? You could say all day you have all these great tactics and techniques, and you go out to the guy's car and it's a mess. What if everybody's car is a mess, and you got you're like, oh man, my hack is not working. Like, one of the hacks we tried to do was we threw trash down in the waiting area to see if anyone would pick it up, and we thought anybody would pick up trash, they've got a good soul, right? No one picked the trash up. In fact, some people threw extra trash on the floor,
Oh my
and we were
God.
like, whoa, what are we going to do? This scarcity is so brutal. How do you get around scarcity?
Training. Let's
Training,
look at
yeah.
it this way. Look, when you bring them in the door, right? When you bring them in the door and you say, yes, you've got the job. However, you will go through a training period. And part of what we will train you on is how to work and how to be who you are. We want you to thrive. We want you to thrive. In order to thrive, you have to show up certain ways. Be here on time. That's important, right? Stay and include yourself in the work. I will you? So you by example, right? Lead by example always, right? Because if you're a jerk, you're going to get jerks eventually. But if you're in the process of bringing people in, how long does it take to teach them how to read? How long does it take to teach them how to do math? How long does it take to teach them how to type? All of those things are trainable. How long does it take to teach them how to be honest,
Hmm.
right?
Zero hours, because you
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, no, you can. You can
Oh man.
train that. One of the things our prison system has missed is everyone they have in there, they're hoping to convert to better people. But that's a matter of teaching them that honesty is important.
They're not doing that.
Nope, they're not. They miss that piece. They need training, right? So when you bring people in, you let them know here's the bar, and we're going to hold you to it. And then I would have you lay out this. The most important thing for everyone is, and I've got a list of values I could send, right? We could post that list of values. Who do you choose to be and what's important? Who do you choose to be? Right? We're all chosen who we are to this present moment. And then we choose from the present moment when we wake up, we choose other things to be. So, one of the things I've worked on is what's important to me. The highest value of all values is integrity. And I define it this way: what I believe, what I think, what I say, and what I do all align. That's integrity. All my actions align, all my words align, all my thoughts align. And it's not like we ever miss that. We can't step out of the school we're in. That's how I describe Earth. We're a school for evolution of who we choose to be. And if we don't like it the first time, I've had the experience of coming back. So there we are.
If only.
Oh
All right.
no, Gregory. And I'll take you sidestep just a little bit. I have memory of 45 different lives. Clear,
Wow.
precise memories over a 24,000 year span. Everybody has that. It's not if, you just have to work to get to the place where the memories are more available.
All right.
There we go. That's a little sidestep.
Well, Brad, this has been such an insightful conversation. I got to have you back as a guest because, well, I would love to do a live webinar with you to get like a live audience so they can ask you some tough questions. Because I think Gregory did ask you some tough questions, but you just swatted them away like they were little flies, right? Annoying flies. I loved it. I loved it. Gregory likes to stump people, as do I. But you had an answer. You had a very insightful answer for every topic he brought up. So are you? So let's take that conversation offline. But we're running out of time here. But I want to share your website, which is www.stellarinsightinc.com. And so if anybody wants to visit your site and reach out to you, they can do that. But I'm because I got another call here coming up. Well, I have another I just got to stay on schedule here. But I want to invite you to do a live webinar if that's
Done.
possible.
Done.
Okay, great. Then let's take this let's end this show and talk about it offline. But any last thoughts you want to share with our audience?
I don't think that there's any reason why everyone who's listening couldn't add a zero to their own revenue, their own personal income, and the revenue of their company they're working for. You can do it. Don't be fearful. Just jump in and run. Make the commitment deep enough, and it will happen.
Yep. Awesome. Well, to the audience, thanks for listening. And don't forget to sign up to be a member on the mspcorner.com site. Please share our link with a CEO or a business owner who you'll find our information beneficial and our conversation we had today beneficial to their business. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening. And don't forget to sign up to be a member on www.mspcorner.com. Please share our link with a CEO who will find our information beneficial to their business. Have an awesome day.